scientists and commanders, an elite team.
What's up, Lore Masters? In this review, we're going to be looking at Lower Deck's very first episode, Second Contact. One of the advantages of waiting to do these reviews, giving it a couple of episodes, is you understand where they were going, as well as what they want overall, at least to a moderate degree. Before we do though, let's address some criticisms. The first criticism that you often hear is that someone finds something within this first episode that goes against Legacy Trek.
Selling Starfleet technology without the express consent of the Federation Council is the breach of Regulations 498 and 756.
The fact is, while you can point out a quote here and there that does seem to contradict Lower Decks, there is literally nothing within this series so far that the main cast of the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and on haven't done themselves. It is either because of blind hatred or an ignorance that allows this claim to continue. Additionally, this episode specifically is quite consistent with what we see of the Lower Decks when they've been focused on in the other series. Specifically, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager.
Thank you so much. Can I just say that I'm really honored to be...
Keep it moving, Lower Decks.
Broccoli makes me nervous, Captain. He makes everybody nervous.
Broccoli. Young Mr. Crusher started that. I guess it's caught on.
They're not laid out properly.
I realize they're not the same as on the bridge, but I had to make some changes because...
I need to be able to ascertain our status at a glance. If you cannot carry out my orders, I will find someone who can.
Keep it moving, Lower Decks.
So with that addressed, let's get into it. The very first episode introduces us to the main characters we will be seeing. This includes Mariner, Boimler, Rutherford, and Tendi. Throughout the episodes, at least to the point of this recording, Tendi gets by far the least amount of time, and Rutherford has interesting, if not brief arcs, but nothing substantial. The focus is generally going to be on Mariner and Boimler. From what I can tell, they are the two main protagonists and thus get most of the camera time. Mariner is a senior officer washout that has lost all belief in Starfleet's higher brass. By contrast, Boimler is a by-the-book officer that wants to be a captain at some point. Rutherford is a half-cyborg engineer who loves everything technical and would die inside of a warp core engine if he had the choice. And Tendi is a new medical officer that is excited to be a part of the final frontier. There are at least 3 story arcs that are within this episode. Each of them do have a resolution, and because of that, they feel a bit short when you break them down. The first is the exhilaration of being on a starship and the magical feeling you get when you are finally a scientist and explorer. The next is realizing that sometimes what Starfleet policy is and what Starfleet is meant to be are two different things.
We've been serving together for a year, and I still don't get why you worship those guys.
They're heroes!
And the last arc shows us that this is going to be a series that does have fun with common tropes that we've seen in the past.
Ruin your date?
Nah, that stuff happens all the time.
Oh, good.
Breaking down the plot specifically, we do see Boimler and Mariner, who are two dramatically different people. One believes that you have to follow the rules no matter what, and the senior officers are gods, and the other believes that the senior officers are jerks who don't care about anyone, and that you have to take matters into your own hands to get it taken care of. Both of them ultimately are wrong. Now, I will admit that the antics that we see in this episode are probably the closest to Rick and Morty humor that we've gotten so far.
You got this. It is getting tired, so go to your happy place. Think about the warp core.
But luckily, it's not too bad, and hopefully we don't see anything like it in the future. The only real flaw of this arc, if we can call it a flaw, is the focus is generally on Mariner and how right she is versus Boimler being wrong. For the story itself, it does make sense, and in future episodes, we will see where she eats humble pie, where she is wrong. And to be fair, we don't need it to be balanced in the same episode, but for the first one, I could see some people being concerned. Looking at the next arc, the whimsical and magical nature of Tendi is probably one of the best parts of the episode. It's a good way of showing the elements of the starship and what Trek is meant to be. Because honestly, I think sometimes we forget what Trek was. It was an exploration. It was wonders. It was going out and finding new civilizations. And we can finally remember that through Tendi. The last arc is kind of a meme. It shows Rutherford in a catastrophic life-ending event on the ship that should result in everybody not surviving, and him talking about how that actually happens quite a bit. It's something that we all know, but is never highlighted in previous series. It's kind of funny. The largest problem you'll have is likely the artistic style or humor. It's not laugh out loud funny for most, but it is entertainingly funny if that makes sense. If you start this out being adverse to adult cartoons, I've said it before, but you're probably not going to like it. I know this review was a bit of high level, but that's really all the episode was. It was meant to give you a bit of a taste of what's going to be happening. In future episodes, I'll be getting into the very plots themselves and breaking down the nitty-gritty, because those actually have depth. But I'm interested. Let me know what you guys thought of the very first episode. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.